You're listening to Social Media Storytelling.
Question we get a lot is how to create content people will actually engage with. And that's why I had Chad come on the studio today, because he's recording a lot of video content. Chad, could you do a quick intro about yourself and why you started recording content in the first place?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. So I really saw this shift a few years ago. It's funny, if you want progression of Facebook, because that's kind of the oldest in social media, except for MySpace, with Tom. But once Facebook came along, you had where it was just posts. And then all of a sudden people started including more pictures. Then all of a sudden people started including like a different element, a different variable, and a different graphic. And then videos started coming along slowly but surely. And it just kind of keeps progressing. And so I just saw this shift. And that's why Instagram's so popular. It's pictures, not words, and it's videos, not words, and reels and things like that. So I just saw that it was a better way to connect with people, and people enjoy videos and more authenticity, and they can see your personality. So otherwise, a post is interpreting tone. So really doing videos and doing reels, and it helps express yourself a little bit deeper. And where people, especially in today's world, what we just went through with COVID for a year and a half, 2 years, it really helps just people relate to others. We've never met in person. I feel like I know you. So it just kind of gives that extra feeling or connection.
So you mentioned we've never met in person. I feel like we know each other. It's so funny because in our industry, especially mortgage, I hear this a lot. I hear loan officers say, "Hey, social media just doesn't work." And then I look at their profile and it's like they're posting like full on flyers on their page. Like nobody's gonna look at that stuff. How has social media really affected like your business, and when have you started to see like the reward of consistently posting that video content?
So it's funny, I made the joke with loan officers. So we have a bunch of them, which is a very good blessing for us. I always make the joke with them, like, "Hey guys, nobody was reading your flyers when you handed it to them in person. Do you really think they're going to zoom in on their Facebook feed and read them now?" Like, no, they're not. They don't care. They just don't care. They don't want to. They don't want to read. So, I've noticed that one thing, the biggest thing, is probably the biggest mental hurdle or obstacle that everybody has to get over. People are watching whether you believe it or not. People are truly watching. And we've had that a lot where somebody randomly will say, I'll give you props here, man. Like, people will say, "Your videos are awesome. Who does those?" I'm like, "I didn't even know you were watching my videos." We've had people randomly that I haven't talked to since high school. "Hey, I had a mortgage question, and I know we haven't talked in 15 years, but I love your stuff." I'm like, "I didn't even know you existed still." Like, I forgot about you.
I see it a lot.
So that's the biggest thing. People are listening. They are watching. And so just because you may not have 500,000 views, like, people are out there. They notice. I promise you.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned people notice, and that video that you posted today is about, guys, just so you know, it was way off from like what he normally posts. Is this coffee video. He got around 5,000 views, and there was around 162 likes. But how many people responded to that, even though there's 162 likes?
Yeah, so I threw a poll in there. It's just a stupid question is, "Are you a coffee addict?" Like, that's all. Nothing, like, it was just a quick yes or no. And it doesn't require deep thought, but it triggered interaction and engagement. And what did I say? 626 people as of the beginning of this recording. 626 people had interacted a yes or a no. I think yes was like 58% to 42% no right now.
Well, it's funny because you look at the video, and in the front end, like my view, I only see 162 people liked it. But then you mentioned like people are engaging with that content. I think it goes to show, even if you're only getting a couple hundred views, like people are looking at your stuff, even if they don't comment or like it, like they pay attention to those things. And this is another thing that I like talking about. So as like being in the mortgage industry, what we tend to do is we create a lot of mortgage related content, but people forget it's important to mix up your content. It's like if I played a song for you and then you heard it in the grocery store, then you heard it at home, you're going to get really bored of it. And I like that you mixed up your content. It was so different from your mortgage content. Why today did you decide to do something a little bit different than mortgage?
I mean, when we've had calls about this, I've been aware that, hey, it can't just be the same business branded material over and over and over. There has to be some sort of breakup. Otherwise, when you look at your profile grid, like it just gets lost in the shuffle. Everything looks identical. And we
Yeah.
talked about that. I've shot reels in a hotel room. I've shot them walking around just on the sidewalk outside of the office just to give a different background. All those kinds of things. But I want to see people maybe get to know me or recognize me for more than just mortgage, and to see like my kids during baseball season. I do a lot of posts about at the ballpark and on the field and things like that. During football season, we have a lot of fun with videos and reels. So those are the things that I enjoy and I'm passionate about. So we just want to make sure we include those, because again, it goes back to the first thing we talked about. You become more relatable. Like you're more than just a mortgage guy, because somebody out there who wants to do a loan, well, are they going to want to do a loan with the robot or the loan with, oh, that guy plays golf too? Oh, I love golf. He's probably an okay person. Hopefully they don't know me. And so we're able to, again, just be more relatable as humans.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, relatable, because I think I've talked to you about this before. Do you know the 2 reasons why someone will follow you on social media? Have I talked to you about that before?
I don't think we've gone over that specifically, no.
Okay, so I mention this a lot, especially on my videos, but there's 2 reasons why someone will follow you. And the reason why I bring this up is because I see real estate agents, loan officers, solopreneurs, they'll create a separate business account from the personal Instagram account. And why someone follows you is because, number one, they know you or they want to get to know you, or number 2, you know something, so you're an expert about something that you can talk about. So separating those things make it so, number one, you're not relatable, but also if you're not creating content to educate them, they're not going to want to watch as much as you could send out there if you're not educating them on anything. So I love that you said being relatable with your content. Okay, awesome. So when you got on video, when you first started, Alec Hansen, loanDepot, he mentioned have your why before you start recording content. What was your why before you started a few years ago recording video content?
So for me, it was just, again, I saw a shift, and mortgages are such a commodity. The consumer doesn't understand the difference and how an experience can be better. Like you look at Starbucks. Starbucks does not have the best coffee in the world, but you know exactly what you're going to get. You know what's on the menu, approximately what it costs. They're going to call your name and smile at you and hand you a cup of coffee, and you just know what it's going to be, right? Well, coffee's a commodity. There's coffee everywhere. So why does everybody go to Starbucks? So I just saw it as, all right, what if I was somebody who's going to be different, and somebody who's going to stand out, and somebody who's going to educate and be the guy that, whether I know it or not, or don't know it, people just look at me, or they see my name, or they see my picture or my brand, and they go, oh, that guy, you just need to call him. He's the one that'll tell you, good, bad, or indifferent. He'll give you the answer. And so that's what you want to be, because otherwise, why would anybody call you? Because you got like your name on your company's website and a private web page that nobody finds through SEOs. I mean, you've got to figure out how to stand out. And that's really just what drove it for me is, I got to do something different than the rest.
No, that's awesome. And do you have a story where someone worked with another loan officer, but because they saw your content, they switched over to you, or maybe in the future even decided to work with you? Do you have any stories like that?
I mean, we've used it for 2 reasons. One, we've used it to grab business, and we have had that be maybe a deciding factor. Nobody has said, hey, I chose you because you have a video on the internet. But I think that it just, in their subconscious, it just solidifies and validates you as the expert. So if you've got 100 videos on YouTube or Instagram or wherever, and the competitor has 2 and they suck, and
Yeah.
there's 38 followers, well, you win.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's the way it works, and it breaks down. One of my favorite stories, though, is I had a guy, because I try to relate to general public for education. I also try to relate to loan officers. And I had a guy who's trying to get into the mortgage business in December, and he
Yeah.
DM'd me on Instagram, and he said, "Bro, thanks so much for all your content. I love your stuff. It's really
Nice.
good. Thanks for posting." And he said, "I'm trying to get into the industry. I take my test next week. What do you think I should do so that
Awesome.
I make sure I pass?" And I just gave him some feedback on, hey, prepare for this. Don't worry about this as much. Do this, do that. And then he sent me another message a week later and was like, "I made it. I'm in. Thanks so much."
So,
Different state, different part of the country, all these things, but it was just another connection, like this is cool, because it's just like a good success story. And he's not working for me, probably won't, because he lives somewhere else. But I
yeah.
just thought it was cool that somebody thought they should reach out to me and ask those questions based on content.
That's wild, man. That's really cool. I share this too, but there was a study by HubSpot, and they were doing a study of how many people will look at your profile before doing business with you. And they found out that 80% of people will actually look at you online before they do business with you. So you brought up the point, like, are you going to go to the loan officer that has tons of content about your issues? Or are you going to go to the loan officer that has a flyer and maybe Merry Christmas image on their Instagram? Probably not, because they're not helping you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're doing this on your page, but a definitely tip that I recommend, especially if you're a loan officer, record 3 videos of your most commonly asked questions. And I would actually redo those, update them every 3 months. You can pin 3 videos to the top of your profile. And if you pin those 3, guess who's going to look at your profile and see those 3 questions that you answered through a video compared to everybody else? A lot of people don't know you can pin those videos at the top. So definitely recommend doing that. It's huge. Okay. Well, I'm trying to, it's so awesome seeing your videos, and also like you just, I feel like it gets different and different every time. I feel like the very beginning when we worked with you, there were a lot of edits, and then I saw your last video, and there's still a lot of editing in it, but it felt like really natural. I know you went to that, was it a conference with Neil? Was it a conference, or was it more of like a master class?
It's just what he calls like Neil's content day. So it's 36 hours of hardcore, just learning, talking, collaborating, etc.
So what were some tips? Because I think you definitely, the videos that you have now, you took in effect. What were some of those tips that you heard from there?
Some of it was just psychological, kind of like I mentioned, people are watching, some of it were, some of the things we learned were like hacks, like, hey, these hashtags, don't put them here, put them here, do this, here's how you can make your video stand out a little bit with font and different colors. Here's how you can do some editing to make things a little bit faster. Like, there were a ton of little tips and tricks. And some people may say, wow, you spent a lot of money, went across the country just to learn tips and tricks. And it's like, yes, but also got really good content. They shoot video for you and you get to record. But what you learn in literally 24 to 30 hours is, to me, worth every penny. So I'm promoting Neil here on that. If anybody's thinking about it, I would do it. It is an investment, but at the same time, I've learned and got answers to all these questions that had been building up, and you get frustrated because you're like, crap, I didn't know that. And then you feel behind, and then you can join like a bi-weekly call. You get access to different stuff and different scripts and whatnot. And you also just learn how to do it and make it better. And just those little things like that, just making those tiny changes really help how your video comes across to everybody else, and increases your engagement and your likability.
Oh, so that reminds me, do you remember, okay, so this was before you started working with us too, you would post like these series, and then I said stop doing the series. And the reason why I said that is because you remember you'd be like,
what series?
5 video series on how to get approved for your mortgage or something like that. Like you had a step 1, step 2, and you'd post as separate videos, but you'd say like, here's the series.
Yeah.
I feel like ever since you stopped doing that in the beginning, those videos have been more powerful because you can hone in on that message a little bit more clear than trying to separate it all. Plus, people aren't going to remember the video you posted a week ago, so they're going to see video 2 out of 5. They're not going to remember that first video in the first place. So I think
Well, I just had to have a mind shift change.
Yeah.
And it just started thinking about it, and it was so obvious to me. And this is stuff like I wish people would even be more blunt with me about is like, you don't need to put a 3-minute video on IGTV. I've never, I won't say never, less than 1% of my time is spent on IGTV watching someone else's. Like if we want to watch long form content, we go to YouTube, right? I mean, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, it's all short form content. So that's what I really just kind of shifted on with my thinking is, okay, screw all this. Let's get really short micro content and knock it out. And then we'll go back and take a look at what videos did well, which ones like were people the most interested in. Then you can take that and do a 5, 10, 15 minute more like conversation, long form style, and put that on your YouTube channel. Yeah. And to me, that was just so obvious, but so eye opening. Like I was super frustrated that I didn't realize that, but that's what worked.
Yeah, not to like throw people, give them a bad name, but like I see a lot of loan officers post like 32-minute clips. Like after those first 2 seconds, I'm like, like I'm not watching the 32-minute video, but maybe if you made that like 30 seconds or a minute, I would. And it brings back the point of like psychology. Like, why does someone get on Instagram in the first place? It's not like they're going on Instagram and they're thinking, what are some common questions I have about mortgages? They're not thinking that. They get on Instagram. Just think about it. You get on Instagram because you're trying to escape the world. You're trying to entertain yourself. Sometimes you educate yourself if you're lucky, but you're never searching for things on social media. Now, YouTube is completely different. Like you said, it's going to be longer form content and you're searching for something specific. So your videos are going to want to be more in depth. So I love your tip of like post a bunch of content, see which one sticks, and then you can record that into long form content for your YouTube. No, that's awesome. Okay. I'm trying to think with your video content, as you keep creating it, I feel like it just gets better and better every single time, and how you mix up your background. What are some other tips for a loan officer, real estate agent, or solopreneur starting to record content? How do you, because at the very beginning, like we try to act like someone we're not on video. How do you break through that so you can be yourself from like the start? Because no one does that. It's hard to break through that, but do you have any tips to break through it?
I mean, a few things. I would just say, one, talk about topics you're super knowledgeable on. And that may sound obvious, but the reason is if you're super knowledgeable, you're going to be more confident. So that's why I say pick those topics. Also, I did this. Don't assume everybody knows everything. Like in the mortgage world, I do it all day, every day. So to me, it's common sense. But to somebody else, it may not be. They may say, I have no idea. There are still people in this world who think you have to have 20% down to buy a house. Yeah. That is the most 1980s cliche ever. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. But when you're in the mortgage world, you just kind of take it for granted, and you think that's normal, that everybody knows you don't have to do that. So those are a couple of things. Like I said, don't take things for granted. Don't assume. Find things you know very, very well and have confidence in. It'll come across the camera. I do challenge people. I did a few of these. I actually want to do a few more of them. Do the stupid lip syncing goofy stuff every now and then. Like it doesn't have to be a bunch, but I would say throw it in there a time or two. Otherwise you may come across as too stiff, and so even if you're not a natural clown or a ham, like still figure out a way to have some fun with it. Make a dry, smart aleck remark, joke on somebody, joke on yourself. Self-deprecating is actually very good. I do that a lot, which is easy for me. But those are some of the things I would say. But reps over and over and over and over, and you'll get more confident. Your first video is going to suck. It's going to be awful. You're going to hate it. You should still post it because like what you said, guess what? Nobody's going to go back in 6 months and go, man, remember Devin's first video? That was awful. Like nobody's gonna do that. It's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna send you my first video later today because you're gonna think like,
please do.
Who's this guy?
Please
I posted
do.
on LinkedIn. I think I was like some guru 5 years ago. I'll send it to you. And then also, you mentioned the funny stuff. Our most viewed video on Instagram was that trend. You know how it's like when your boss is younger than you, and then they're like, "Do you want a beer?" They're like, "Yeah." That was our most viewed video, and nothing to do with what we do.
So my second most viewed reel is my middle child sitting in car line at school, and I ask him questions about the economy. He's 4, by the way. And I ask him questions about mortgage rates, inflation, the housing market. You never know what kids are going to say, right? So it's just a stupid, goofy interview. And it was over 10,000 views.
Oh my gosh. Was your second one what was your second most viewed? Was that the coffee one?
No, that was the second most, was the middle son. The most viewed was me walking around outside talking about the birthday hacks or things to do on people's birthday. So that one got the most views.
I do remember that. I'm going to show you my first video since we have time. So it's when I weighed less than paper. I think I weighed 110 pounds at the time, and I'm not that small anymore. So this I think it's 4 years ago.
I haven't weighed 110 pounds since I was 8.
Dude, I actually, I have this problem with my stomach.
Look at this
now, like, everything's going good, but like if you just want to listen, it's so funny.
Hey guys, so I'm a digital marketing manager.
It's just so cringy. Can you hear that? Hear that audio?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's
fantastic.
just you gotta break through it. Like you said, like you're gonna hate your first video. This was literally 4 years ago.
You'll hate it.
And
so I used to do sports broadcasting, and I heard my first like couple of times ever doing play-by-play, and even today, 22 years later, I just want to like melt into the chair because of how awful it is. It's cringing. It's so bad, so bad.
Yeah, it's funny. I think too, before you start recording video, like there's so many tips out there where 4 to 5 years ago, there weren't all of these tips, and there weren't people creating a lot of content. There just weren't. Like, they were posting to YouTube, but like you mentioned, Facebook had more video. And some tips are just like, don't introduce yourself at the beginning. This is the biggest takeaway. So I finished Gap Selling. The biggest takeaway from you was no one really cares about who you are. And I see a lot of people say like, hey, this is Devin Gilman's story. This is what I do. Okay, let's get into the video. Like 5 minutes later, they get into the content. It's like no one cares about you. So,
if they're on your page, they know your name. No reason for you to tell them.
This is so bad too, and I hate talking bad about things. But I was at my first mortgage company. I told this loan officer they wanted to post like that they won the President's Cup. I'm like, you can announce the number, but your image is literally in the top left with your name. And they wanted their name and their photo bigger than anything else on the graphic. They just wanted a giant. And I'm like, okay, whatever you want, man, we'll do it. It's like your profile is already on there. You don't need to make it bigger than that. Yeah, it's funny. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Chad, for hopping on. We're going to throw up your social handles. So throw up Chad. It's Beyond the Loan, right? Did I say that right? Beyond the Loan.
Yeah, at Beyond the Loan. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Follow him there. Facebook, Chad Anderson, loanDepot. Thanks again, man, for hopping on, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. For all things social media, visit us online at story.co. We'll see you next time.